Boom, 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 everybody. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you are having an amazing Saturday and a great weekend so far. I want to welcome you. My name is Don Terrell to the Color of Motion, where stories come in all shades. And I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics that, you know, I'll keep telling you. If you don't know by now, it's an industry I am crazy about. So thank you so much for joining me today. We are here every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, the Facebook group community, which I think I am going to check because, again, I'm having to do things a little differently now, live streaming into the Facebook group. And I don't think I live streamed last week, so I'm going to check on my phone to make sure that it's live streaming. Unless you are checking from the Facebook group, The Color of Motion, let me know if the show is live streaming, because I had to use a stream key. Now Facebook rules. And to the website for the show. But I do, like I said, always encourage people to get plugged in to either one of the channels there. Again, make sure that, first off, you know the drill. Hop into the comments, say, hey, where you tuning in from, so that I can give you the shout out that, you so richly deserve there. But make sure that you get plugged into the Facebook group community, facebook.com/group/the color of motion. Definitely don't want you to miss out. We have a lot of fun there, share industry news, and always looking to grow the family. So I definitely don't want you to miss out on anything. So again, make sure you get plugged into the Facebook group community, Color of Motion. Also, you can follow us on Instagram. We are on Instagram, although I am not streaming on Instagram just yet. The Color of Motion. Definitely, we want to increase the followers there. So please hop on over to Instagram.com/the color of motion and follow us there. Like I said, we're here each and every Saturday afternoon, live to the YouTube channel and all the other channels. But I do always encourage everybody, really, to get plugged into the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Don Terrell. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you don't miss out on when the show goes live or when other great content goes up on the channel. Also, there, you're always able to check out some of the other past great guests that we've had on the show, for sure. So make sure, again, you hop on over to youtube.com/Don Terrell. Also, the store is open. I like to, promote the store, swag items. Everybody loves swag items. thecolorofmotion.net/swag. Pick you up something nice. We have a lot of great shirts, hoodies, mugs, constantly thinking of new things to put into the store. Definitely would love to hear back from you of anything you might like to see in the store, because we're always thinking about that. But definitely pick you up something nice, either for yourself or for a friend. You scan the barcode on the screen. That'll take you there. Or you can, like I said, hop on over to thecolorofmotion.net/swag. Only request that I do have is if you pick you up something, snap a picture of yourself, send it on over to me so that I can share it on the show and share it into the social channels as well, So if you don't mind being on camera. Like I said, me, I always like to see as many people as possible in the Color of Motion gear as well. I got to get mine. I got me a new shirt coming in myself. So definitely I'm going to be sporting that. as well. Also, want to give a big shout out to today's sponsor for the show, DG Graphics. They do all our overlays, animations, graphics, and everything. Help make us look good. So if you're a business or a brand that's looking to level up your brand design, really get you some great interactive, engaging content, then you definitely want to reach out to them. DG Graphics, I appreciate them always supporting the show. Hop on over there, dggraphics.com, and pick you up something. Let's see. I always, like I said, try to remember everything on this housekeeping thing. You remember what I said? I want this to be an interactive show. And again, like I said, I want to quickly check on my phone to see if this week I got it right with streaming into the Facebook group. I think I am. I had to use that, like I said, a stream key, and I guess I haven't gotten it. Oh, I think I am. Well, let me know. It doesn't show up on my phone as I'm live into the Facebook group. I'm going to have to work on that again a little more. But so that means you can catch us on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, or the website for the show, and check us out there. All right. Like I said, I appreciate everybody, tuning in. I always appreciate people that give me a little bit of their time on a Saturday afternoon. Like I said, I hope you're having an amazing weekend. So I think we're about ready to kind of get this show on the road and really get the ball popping. Again, I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. Super great guest that we're going to be sitting down with, super talented as well. So definitely be looking at his work moving in. So with that, I think we can get this show on the road. What do you say, hey? All right. We are back, and ready to get this one started off. Right. Wow. All right, my next guest is a 3D animation consultant. 3D animation through his eyes is like being a child lost in a playground of toys, each one holding secrets waiting to be uncovered. That curiosity led him to the fascinating world of game development and 3D animation. Growing up in the heart of London, pursuing game development was like chasing a distant star in his community. He always felt a fierce determination to carve out his own path and strive for excellence. Choosing animation and game development as his career felt like a natural fit. It demanded dedication, practice, and a hunger for improvement. Now, a decade into his journey, he's tasted success, but his ambitions have evolved. His new mission to reach back and pull others forward. He wants to shatter the barriers that keep game development and animation locked behind closed doors and dispel the myths around getting into this industry. He wants to show the world that these fields are not just hobbies, but genuine paths to a fulfilling life. Join him as he rewrites the narrative, inspires others to chase their dreams, and prove that with dedication and passion, anything is possible. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guest, Mr. Jerome Rodgers-Blake. Jerome, how's it going, my man?
I'm doing super well, thanks, Don. Man, wow, what an introduction. I'm honored. I'm honored to be here. It's honestly, it's a pleasure being here. I've been a fan of your show for quite some time. So when I got the call to join your show, I couldn't help but answer the call.
I
So yeah, thanks for the
appreciate it,
introduction,
brother.
and I'm super grateful to be here.
Well, I'm super appreciative of it. And like I like to always say, we try to make our guests feel like the superstars that they are. And you're definitely a superstar with what you're doing and the work that you're doing. Like I said, and I've told you about this a little before the show. When I first saw your work, I was just blown away by your quality of your work. And just the animation of it. So I knew I had to have you on the show. So I can't thank you enough for coming on and making the show what it is.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Like I said before, it's a pleasure to be here. And you know what? I'm just really looking forward to having this conversation. Been looking forward to it for a long time.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I always like to find out what was it initially that kind of got you. I know most of us, as creators, as animators, as cartoonists, and whatever illustrators, we start really young, and we're kind of interested
Hmm.
really young. Even though we may not realize that that's a profession that we wanted to get. But then I've met some that they were off on a different path and came into this industry, this space later on in life. When was it that you really kind of realized this was the thing that you wanted to do and wanted to be a part of?
Sure. I didn't realize I wanted to be an animator until I was about 21, actually.
Okay.
Because, truth be told, I've always been into video games,
Mm-hmm.
but animation, game development, it wasn't a thing that I took seriously as something that could actually be a career path. It's just something that I did on the side, play games with your cousins, Crash Bandicoot, Sonic, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Really, what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a professional footballer, and I got to the stage where I was at semi-professional level. I was playing for a team called Whiteleaf, and then that didn't pan out too well.
Yeah.
And after that, I was at a stage where I needed to decide what I wanted to do with my life.
Okay.
And I remember being in my bedroom one day, and my mother said to me, "Look, you can't just sit around moping all day. I know that football didn't work out for you, but you need to fix up. Basically, you're not going to be in my house and not do anything good with yourself."
So you're gonna have to do something because you're gonna have to get out of here if you can't.
Exactly.
And I want to clarify too, because like I said, over here, when you say footballer, I'm thinking football. Are you talking soccer? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I know y'all call it football over there, but we call it soccer over here. So like when you say football, I'm thinking, okay, football. So did your parents or your mother encourage you um early on with your talent, or she just wanted you to get something stable like most parents do?
Yeah, it
Something
was
that's
really just a case. It was really just a case of getting something stable because my parents, both my mum and my dad, were supportive of me no matter what it was that I did. It was just a case of decide what you want to do and take it seriously and pursue it. So at first it was football, and like I said, that didn't pan out for me, or soccer for you guys in the
yeah,
States.
yeah.
And yeah, so then after that, it was like, you're always playing games. Why don't you figure out how those work? And almost like a light bulb moment in my head. It's like, I never even considered that as an option. So I was always that kid that whatever I applied to or wherever I applied myself to, I could always kind of get it straight away. So applied for uni, got in, and then my first year at university was actually split between games art, game design, and games animation. So once I got into uni, I aced games art, aced games design, but then when it came to games animation, oh man. Um, I remember I did my first assignment. Like my lecturer sent me my first assignment to do, and he said, "Hey, make this character more or less do whatever you want." Now, at first, I was like blown away. I was like, "Whoa!" you mean I can take this character and make it do whatever it is that I want? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. So I did the assignment, and then I submitted my work to him, and then I said, sir, what do you think? He said, Jerome, this work is poor.
Well, at least he was honest with
Like,
you.
yeah, like he told me straight up, flat out, like, Jerome, this is horrible. And I was like, wow, that's the first time in my life that I've been told that something that I've worked on is no good.
Yeah,
And I don't know, I've always been the kind of person that I'm always about self-improvement and development,
yeah,
and I refuse to not feel good enough.
yeah,
So I told myself and him at the time, like, okay, just because of that, I'm going to be your best student.
yeah,
And then many years later, I'm now at a space where I'm being called back to the same university to give talks, lectures, and inspire the next generation of talent. So
yeah.
that's been my journey so far of how I got into animation in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious because, and we're going to get into, because right now you have your own animation academy, and we're going to get into that a little more. But I'm curious because there is that point where I want to say people can't take criticism, and that could have
Mm.
easily discouraged an artist with a teacher saying this is really poor, depending on how the artist take it. Do you find that that's a thing that young incoming artists have to work on, just their ability to take things honestly as a critique to make them better, as opposed to taking it personally and saying, wow, okay, I'm not going to be able to do anything in this industry?
Yeah, that's super important. And in fact, I'd say that's a critical skill because that is going to be the thing that really makes or breaks an artist. Because even for myself, there's been loads of times as I'm working on animation that I think it's good, but the results speak for themselves where I'm not getting jobs, I'm not getting interview callbacks, etc., etc.
Yeah,
So I had to really sit down and be honest with myself and put my work out there and say like, hey, what's wrong with this? Tear it apart, say what you have to say because you almost need to have thick skin in the sense that the people that are criticizing your work, they're not doing it to be malicious. They're
yeah,
doing it because what they want to see is quality work.
yeah, yeah,
So you just take the personal feelings out of it. And I know that that's hard because as artists, we put a lot of passion, a lot of time and dedication into this. But
yeah,
understand that that feedback is just going to refine you and make you a better artist. So
yeah,
don't take it personally. Just apply it, and it will
yeah.
make you better.
So, because obviously, you're from London, how is the game industry there, and how do you look at the gaming industry over here? And is it growing? Because we were just kind of talking about this a little before the show as well. The industry's kind of going through its little period of hard time, little
Hmm.
downturn. I think everything is cyclical, but right now it seems to be going through a downturn with people trying to get into studios, having a hard time finding jobs, really getting into the industry. How is it over there? And where do you see the kind of the gaming industry kind of making that turn to come back around?
So I think the thing that you said just before I'm about to answer this question was key, that
Yeah,
everything is cyclical.
yeah,
So we're in a stage now where things are in a really low point in the industry, but what I find is that over time it's going to kick back up. So I would say to all the artists out there, don't lose hope. Keep working on your skills. And I think the thing that you should really do is use this as an opportunity to make yourself the best artist that you can be because as the pool of opportunities is smaller, it means that the competition undeniably is more fierce, which
yeah,
means that you need to position yourself in a way that you stand out amongst everybody else. And the only way you're going to do that is to refine and sharpen your skills. So, to answer your question directly, how it is in the UK compared to the US and everywhere else, it's pretty much the same all over the world.
yeah,
What's happening with jobs in the US is the same within the UK. And I want to say to everybody this is that there are absolutely animation and game development jobs out there, but like I said, they're just more scarce. So with that in mind, you need to position yourself in a way that you stand out amongst everybody else. And if you can do that, not only will you nail the job, you have that satisfaction of knowing that, you know what, I've made myself a better artist through these trials and tribulations.
yeah,
That's basically my opinion on it.
yeah. And like I said, we're going to be taking a look at some of Jerome's work. Also, we're going to be diving a little more into his animation academy. But what are some of the kind of games that you enjoyed playing, and what were some of the kind of things that you took away um, from your schooling outside of the critique the teacher gave you? But what were some of the things that other principles that you kind of took away from the schooling, your schooling, and the type of games that you enjoyed playing?
Mhm. So the key things that I took away from my education in general is I knew from the jump that getting into this industry is not easy. It's always going to be competitive. So that just told me that I need to aspire for a level of excellence that others simply don't, meaning that I need to really put that work in where others possibly aren't willing to do so. So I
Yeah,
knew that from the jump. In terms of the games and stuff that inspired me as a kid, oh, I played loads of them, man. We're talking about Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Sonic the Hedgehog, all of them. Jack and Dexter, you name it, I played it. Oh, and tons of Dragon Ball Z games. I'm a big Dragon Ball fan,
Dragon
always have
Ball
been my
Z.
entire life. Yeah, my entire
Yeah.
life always have been.
I like the cartoon. It was pretty funny. I love that. Uh, for everybody, like I said, just tuning in. We're having a fun. We just started this fun conversation with my man Jerome Rodgers-Blake, game animator and animation consultant. Mr. DeMille, which I knew you were going to enjoy this show. Critiques are a good thing. I feel there is a way to be honest and constructive about the work, so long as it's not meant to be a personal attack. And I think most people, like I said, there's always going to be those ones, obviously, that, you know, aren't really trying to be helpful with what they're saying and really trying to hurt you. But I think for the most part, and again, you got to, I think you have to kind of take a, kind of keep in mind where the feedback is coming from.
Hmm.
Who's giving you the feedback? If it's like I said, just maybe some Joe Blow off the street that has no idea about animation and stuff, he may say it looks cool, or he may just give you a bad bad rap or bad critique. But most teachers, most I guess people that are in school and things like that are going to kind of give you an honor because they're all trying to make their skills better. For you, obviously, in game animation and in game development, there's a lot of things involved. Are you more focused on the animation, or do you enjoy the modeling or the art? I mean, because you kind of have to figure out where what lane you're going to kind of try and perfect yourself in. Is it the
Yeah.
animation? Is it the texturing? Some people like finding, have an affinity for a certain thing. Could be rigging, could be anything. What is it? The animation that you love?
Yeah, so for myself personally, it's the animation that I love. And I think the thing that I liked about game development in particular, like animating stuff is really cool, but it was the way that you can start to implement your animations, collaborate with other designers, etc., to make the game itself or the inputs feel nice. So, for example, there's a game I worked on called Lords of the Fallen, and that game, being a Dark Souls based game, within that genre is very reliant on inputs. It's very reliant on actually the feel of the game, making sure that the attacks feel weighty,
Yeah,
etc., etc. And in order to achieve that, you as an animator, you're not going to be able to do that on your own. You're going to need the feedback and the implementation of designers, coders, programmers, etc., etc., all pouring into one pot to create the best outcome for the player. And that's the thing that I enjoy the most. I think that comes first, and then second for that for me is creating super cool animations that people can just watch and they're just like, wow, that's my
yeah,
thing.
yeah. And it's funny, and I want to kind of hear your take on it because I was listening to a post, um, and I think maybe Demille, you might have shared it, or I think you might have shared it, but it was a game developer talking about um, the process of interviewing and how you can avoid getting into companies and getting into a job that's really not good, because obviously I'm sure you come across or maybe have your share of people that have approached you. Oh, I got this game idea that I'm trying to put together, and it just doesn't fall through, and this and that. Do you also focus in the academy kind of the art of interviewing? And I think as I watched his post, and I had made a comment about it. What stuck out to me was what most people do in an interview. They're feeling like they're sitting down and getting interviewed as opposed to interviewing that company to find out whether it's the right company, the right job, or even a serious thing that they should consider. Is that something
Mhm.
else that you kind of bring into the academy and try and teach students coming up, that it's not just them interviewing you, it's you asking the right questions to find out whether or not, this is a good job to get into, or this is a company that's even going to last, you know?
Yeah, the short answer to that question is yes. And I want to kind of elaborate more on what you just said because what you said is super powerful. There's been a lot of people that I've met over my years in this industry that have worked at companies, and even when they've gotten just something as simple as an animation test, the test that they've gotten has been unreasonably long. And then I've had to say to one of my students, like, the test that you've been given is something that would take me nearly 3 weeks to do, even at my experience level.
Yeah.
So, you as a junior, if they're asking this of you at this level, within this time frame, is this somewhere that you really want to work for? So you need to consider that, you know what, you've put a lot of time, energy, and effort into your skill set. Your skill set is valuable, even at a younger and junior stage. So as much as they're interviewing you to see if you're fit for the role, you also need to see if that opportunity is good for you as well. Because there's been many cases, not for myself personally, but other artists who have had not so great experiences with different companies, startup companies existing, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
it's super important that you mentioned that. And yeah,
Yeah.
to answer the question, that is absolutely something that I do teach at the Advanced Animation Academy, especially within my mentorship programs. It's super important because I don't like to just say, hey, come and create this cool animation shot with me, because that doesn't serve you in the long run. Of
Yeah.
course, you get great skills, you develop them, but I'd rather look at your application as a holistic standpoint. So that includes your CV, your show reel, interview techniques, your social media as well, because having a good social presence is super valuable. You need to have it because if you don't, you're missing out on opportunities.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys a quick fact. Every opportunity that I've had within the last 8 years has come via social media, has come via LinkedIn.
Yeah. 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 And we were talking about this before the show too. I mean, yeah, it's great, to get into these studios, whatever studio it might be, but taking advantage of the tools that we have today and that you have at your fingertips right now. And then trust me, you got a lot of tools. We got a lot of tools at our fingertips. Trust me, we can see with the gray hairs. I've been around for a while, pre computers and all of that. So we've come along. That's why I love this time, because we have so many tools. The equipment's gotten so much faster. The tools have gotten so much better, more available. You got all these social channels out here to really showcase your work. To take advantage of that, even if while you're wanting to get into the studio, you're working to do that and get your work out there. Because, like you said, 9 times out of 10, recruiters or studios are looking through your social channels to see, or your portfolio, whatever it is, to see what you're doing. And if you're putting your work out there and it's great work, trust me, they're going to come a calling.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick testimony. One of my students who have recently just finished working with me, he managed to land interviews just off the back of one shot that we created together. So that kind of just shows you, just putting your work out there on social media, it's super powerful. Like, long gone are the days where, you send out your CV and your application to different studios all over, but you ain't got to do that anymore. Social
Yeah,
media, it's powerful, it's a tool, use it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And speaking of some of the tools, obviously there are a lot of tools out there today. I mean, uh, I'm pretty sure maybe you're using Maya. What are you using for your game animation and game development? Is Maya? You got a lot of
Yeah.
free available tools out there like Blender,
hmm
Unreal.
Cascador's another one.
Yeah, and we're gonna put, like I said, this is stuff that I'm gonna put in the show notes as well, so that you can check it out. Because sometimes not everybody's able to get their hands on a copy of Maya, to afford a copy of Maya. That's why I love these companies and softwares out there where you could really do some really great stuff. Like I said, Blender is an amazing tool for being free,
hmm
um, but just taking advantage of the tools and things out there are what are some of the other tools that you enjoy using, or is Maya pretty much, your main cup of tea there?
Yeah, so Maya is my go-to software because that's the thing that most studios are using. So it just makes sense that I align myself with the things that I'm typically going to be using on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
Second to that would be Motion Builder. I use that more so for motion capture, but again, that's more so just to do it in line with professional work. But
yeah,
if you're somebody that doesn't have the capacity to get a hold of Maya or Motion Builder, then I heavily advise that you look at something like Blender. It's free. Look
yeah,
at Cascador. It's free. Download Unreal, get yourself familiar with like game pipelines.
yeah,
It's free. And yeah, so and they now, especially Unreal 5.4, they got some really powerful animation tools in there that you should really be checking out.
yeah,
It's super important that you stay on top of the trend with like in regards to new technology that's out there because these are the things that are going to make your job as an animator more efficient. Even if you're not an animator now, start seeing yourself as that professional so that you can position yourself to be in the best position for when the studios come calling.
yeah, yeah. And do you, and do you think that's the main thing that students kind of battle with, is the mentality of feeling like, hey, this is something I can actually do and really navigate through this industry, feeling like you're good enough. Obviously, imposter syndrome is a real thing that a lot of artists,
Hmm.
struggle with, and this and that. But is that a thing that you see a lot with working with younger people, is really kind of getting their mentality right that, hey, this is something that you can do and really thrive in if you put the effort in.
Yeah, I think the mentality is one of the key things about whether you make it or not in this industry. And even when you are in this industry, even ascending to like higher levels. Um, because I remember there was a time where I recently started my academy and there was an animator, not going to name them, but they even said to me, like, you know what, I basically, in a nutshell, that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I should be just work on my skills. And if I had taken that advice, then I wouldn't be here now inspiring others, helping others, land jobs and get to where they want to get to. So when someone in the chat mentioned about, like receiving criticism, and I think what they mentioned is super powerful. You like recognize where the criticism and critique is coming from, because then if you realize that it's not coming from a good place, a genuine place that's trying to help you grow, then honestly you can actually just dismiss it, use your discernment, and get that out of here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I think is maybe kind of the other side of the blade for social media. It is easy
Yeah.
to kind of get caught up in what other people are saying and kind of believe, like I said, thinking the grass is greener on the other side, or listening to people that you don't even know and probably will never even meet, type of thing, and taking their criticism to heart.
Hmm.
Definitely, I feel like that translates across every anything that you do. The mentality of how you approach it is going to determine, like you said, the success that you have in it. Just for future reference there. Mr. DeMio has a question. Let's throw it up in here. Do you think with the emergence, he stole my question, the emergence of AI, that, damn it, Jamil, with the emergence of AI, that it will hurt the job opportunities for gameplay animations wanting to break into the industry? Which, like I said, I was going to ask you that. What do you feel like the impact of AI is going to have on the industry, or has had on the industry at this? Because it's exploding at a lightning pace. So, what are your thoughts about AI and how it kind of fits within gameplay?
So the reason I'm smiling is because I was actually really hoping that either yourself or somebody would ask me that question. Because all
DeMille, you
right,
beat me to it.
so so to answer the question, actually gonna put your mind at ease. No, I don't think it's gonna hurt any job opportunities because there was a time not that long ago where motion capture became more prevalent in every animator, every game developer's pipeline. And when that first got introduced, there was a bit of scaremongering going on, saying that, oh, with this new piece of technology, oh, basically, are there going to be a need for animators anymore? Of course, there are going to be. What you ended up finding is that later down the line was that the technology was just ultimately used to make our lives or our jobs as animators more efficient. So when it comes to this technology, it's going to be the same thing all over again. Sure, it's going to make some processes streamlined, but then you as an animator adopt it into your workflow, and then it's just going to make you more efficient. So don't let what you're seeing put fear into you that you're not going to have an opportunity. Because let me put it this way, you can tell AI to basically make a video, because I've seen some stuff that you can do this. You can tell it to make a video, but one thing it can't do is that it can't basically iterate upon that. So let's say I say to you as one of my students, all right, animate a dragon essentially, and you've animated the dragon doing what I've told it to do. And I say, okay, but in this part, I need you to make it faster. I need you to add a little bit more squash and stretch on the landing. Or the AI can't do that. Only you as an artist with human interpretation can do
Yeah.
that. And it was the same thing with motion capture. Oh, when motion capture came into the picture, oh, so are we never going to have to animate humanoid characters anymore? Yes, you do, because all it does is provide a frame for you to just basically get the timing right, or just a base for you to work on.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it just made your job easier, or more efficient rather. So to answer the question directly, no, it's not going to ruin opportunities. It's just going to make your life easier. So embrace it and enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. Um, I in some instances, like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. Obviously, I think it's a tool that can be used. Obviously, as a creator or something, which I think they still have to work out the legalities of copyrights and how AI is using some things. But as a tool, it is, like I said, a tool that is used to make your task easier, quicker, whatever it may be, I think. And obviously, there are a lot of people on either side that hate it, love it, hate it, type of thing. But again, I don't think it'll ever take away the human interpretation of what a human artist will bring to its creation. I always find it funny, and I guess that's kind of the thing when new technology comes. The technology before that always feels a little certain way because, like I said, traditional 2D artists started feeling a
Hmm.
certain way when 3D came out. So, it's just like I said, you learn it, you figure out how you can utilize it, or if you can utilize it to make your creative process better. But it's definitely not a genie that's going back in the bottle for sure. Mr.
Exactly.
Mr. DeVille, found that funny. Yeah, I don't take it personally, DeVille. You got it. You got the question. I'm really glad to hear that for sure. Appreciate it because, like I said, DeVille's a game character animator as well, so I knew he would find this interview really, really interesting. Um, in building your academy, what's kind of been your biggest challenge to this date, putting together your animation academy and getting people on board? Because obviously, um, you know, this is a great time because you got a lot of schools out there, especially online schools that are
Hmm.
teaching animation and making it so much easier for the person to get education where they may not necessarily have to go to a brick and mortar school. I mean, if that's your easiest and best way of learning, I would highly suggest it. Some people are just better at learning in a class with a physical teacher.
Hmm.
Is that a thing that you also come across or ask as or try and pick up whether that person, and I'm assuming it's an online school,
Yes,
animation
it
academy,
is.
because not every person can kind of learn that way, and they have to be pretty self motivated to do the work
Hmm.
type of thing. Is that something else that you kind of try and figure out and see, is this person the kind of self motivated type to really get through it and put his all into the work?
Well, the answer to that question is actually to just offer the opportunity for both. Because like you rightly said, people have different learning styles. One person needs, direct mentorship where they're basically in front of me and you like this,
Yeah.
and I'm directing you what to do. And others, they can be self-guided essentially. And I think the best solution that any school can do, and this is what I do at the Advanced Animation Academy, is to provide both. So I provide mentorships, I provide courses, and I do also provide a package where you have the mentorship and then you also have the courses bundled in as well. Anybody that's interested, give me a shout. But yeah, to answer the question directly,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. And obviously, you're working with Maya through your courses and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, is that um, And I guess you do encourage it if they're trying to obviously get a job, production type of job. But are there other softwares that you may be looking to later on implement because you are able to do game development and gaming in Blender, Unreal, some of the other software? So are you looking to kind of expand later on with the Animation Academy into other softwares that creators can use in game development?
So the answer to that is yes. Not anytime soon, but it's definitely something I plan in the distant future. So the main reason why I stick with Maya and Motion Builder is because if you're going to aspire to be professional, or you're an existing professional that wants to level up promotions, etc., these are the tools you're going to be using. So it's best you get familiar with them.
Yeah,
However, I put one caveat to that. Just because you're an animator that's animating with, let's say, Blender, Cascador, or whatever the software is, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to land roles, because all that the software is just a package that you're using to animate. Because the skills that you're going to learn are transferable. Point being this, a good animator in one software is going to be a good animator in another piece of software. All it's going to take is for you to learn the user interface. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Um, no, I definitely agree with that. When you came into the industry, what was kind of your biggest, I want to say, aha or misconception that you thought about game development, that when you finally got into it and saw, the inner workings of a pipeline of putting together a game, what was that thing that kind of, wow, I didn't really kind of realize this, and that kind of stuck with you?
Hmm. I guess the biggest misconception I had would be the kind of people that I would meet. Because growing up as a young black guy in South London, Crystal Palace, you have a certain you have a certain image that's portrayed of, game developers, IT, tech, etc., etc.
Yeah,
But when you actually get into it, what you realize is that this industry is so diverse. There are people from all kinds of backgrounds that are into all types of things, and even if that's something you didn't think you'd get yourself into, you'll find your crowd, you'll find your home there. So that's one thing that I would say was the biggest misconception or the biggest lie that I
yeah,
thought basically coming into the industry. I thought it was for a certain type of person, but then I realized that, no, this industry is for everybody. Everybody can join. Everyone can have fun. Everyone can inspire. Everyone can grow.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I think a lot of people, don't get either because they're just playing the game, and they don't really think about all the things like I said that go into it. Just like animation, you don't really think about it until you see the end credits, see all the different stuff that has to be done to get it
I'm
out
glad you brought
there.
that up.
Um, what are some of the things that, like you said, people, I guess you expose to people about just the pipeline, storyboarding, animatics, all the things that go into it that, we, the average person, don't really think about because we're just playing the end game and all of
Mhm.
that.
See, I'm glad you mentioned that because, like I was saying earlier, I'm actually glad you brought that up because the amount of work that goes into making a game or a movie or a TV show, it's incredible. Like even the show that we're on right now, your show, Color of Motion, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that the end user doesn't understand or experience. They just see the final result. But I think that's the thing that kind of shocked me as well, is how much work goes into games, how much work goes into animation. And one thing I learned, even through my time of learning the craft, is I learn to appreciate every aspect of a game. So when I play a game now, there'll be times I walk up to like a cliffside and I'll just look at the textures and be like, oh wow, this artist has done an incredible job. Whereas before, I would have just run straight past it.
You're sitting looking at the thing they modeled and you're getting killed. I was like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But yeah, no. And today, like I said, the games today are almost like mini movies, which a lot of them do have their little animated clip before you drop into the game and stuff. And the texturing and the modeling has gotten, and the animation has gotten so much better. Like I said, the phones, the gaming stations have gotten so much faster now, can handle so much more graphics now, and the
Mhm.
processing power. Um, just moving forward, it's just getting incredible. Again, for everybody just jumping in, we're having a great conversation with Jerome Rodgers-Blake. animation consultant and game animator. We're going to take a look at his demo reel, and I want to come back and ask him a couple of other questions that just kind of came to mind to me. So let's take a quick look at some of Jerome's work. Man, it's such amazing animation. Like I said, I find it, I have such respect for animators that can animate because it's really hard to get movement, realistic movement. It takes a lot. So I have such respect for that, and just the dynamics of your movements. Very hard, very hard to do for sure. Mr. DeMille loves it. Love that takedown with Symmetro, great
Symmetro.
work.
Yeah,
Symmetro, great work. Um, I'm
thank you.
curious. Where do you see the future of gameplay and game development as it pertains to like VR? And I was kind of thinking about that because Apple Pro has come out with their Apple Vision glasses, and I was thinking to myself, man, when developers start getting a hold of this and really making some immersive games, I can see the potential of how it could really be so much more dynamic. Have Is that something that you've thought about in how games are going to evolve into that space of virtual reality where it's a really total immersion into the game?
Yeah, I have. In my early career, I was actually heavily invested into VR. It was actually one of the first jobs I had as an animator was working for a company that specialized in virtual reality, augmented reality when it was new. When the Oculus Rift first came out,
Yeah,
things like that. Um, but what I've noticed from that point onwards is that as more and more headsets have been developed, the games for them aren't necessarily being produced, and I think the reason why is because a lot of people haven't seen the benefits of having their own virtual reality headset.
yeah,
I think if it was to be fully invested in and fully taken up by the consumer, oh man, the experiences we would have would be absolutely incredible. And there are
yeah,
some great experiences out there, but we need more.
yeah,
And I think studios in this current time are playing it safe, so they're not investing into VR specific games. Whereas if they did, there'd be more content out there, then more people would take it up, and then it would explode. But
yeah,
as of right now, that's not really happening. I think augmented reality is becoming more of a thing. Like you said, with the Apple Vision Pro,
yeah,
that headset is amazing. I've had
yeah.
a chance to try it myself. And
You
if
have?
you could find a way to incorporate that, make the battery life longer,
Yeah,
and yeah, make it into like, I don't know, some glasses or something,
yeah.
ah, super cool.
Oh man, yeah. Like I said, I did the demo of it too, and it's an amazing thing to do. I also agree with you in the sense that I don't think it's really gonna kind of explode until I guess the prices come down because Apple Vision
That
Pro
too.
isn't your typical consumer type of the average consumer isn't going to spend about 4K for a device. It's more right now for developers and people that are developing for or diehard Apple fans that love just Apple devices and have the dollars to drop for it. But I think as prices come down, like you said,
Hmm.
you work on the battery life of things and it iterates, it's going to get that much better. That was kind of the one thing that kind of stuck out to me that, when I did do the demo for the Apple Pro, it didn't have a lot of, obviously it had a few Apple softwares on there, like Keynote and some other things on there. Didn't really have any, at least I didn't do any of the gaming, the ones that
Hmm.
they do, but they didn't have a lot that was developed for it. So I think as developers get a hold of it, obviously the price has got to come down for it to really take off for the average consumer. Um,
Yeah.
it's gonna
One,
really,
I just want to say something real quick about
yeah.
that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing I did like about the Apple Vision Pro is essentially it's like a computer on your head.
Yeah,
So it would be nice if like that could eventually become the future of game development, the way that you interact with it, and you use a software like Maya, Unreal, and you basically interact with the character as if you had a figurine
yeah,
in your hands. If that became the future of game development, oh man, that would be awesome.
yeah.
Because then you'd
It,
really from using like a mouse and pen and you really start sculpting poses, etc. That would be
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Which like I said, I know a couple of the companies out there that do have like a virtual reality painting program, and you can paint and model in kind of 3D. But that was the thing that I was thinking about too, was those more practical softwares that the creator uses, like Maya, or if
Hmm.
you're an editor like DaVinci or Premiere. How are you going to do those type of things, like, because like you said, it is basically a computer on your head. Kind of seeing how they develop for that, because it is, like I said, as the price starts to come down and it they start to iterate the device and everything. I think those type of companies will start considering, okay, well, what does the Premiere, somebody that has Apple, the Apple Pro Vision, or Oculus or whatever it is, that's an editor or
Hmm.
a painter or a sculptor and wants to use ZBrush type of thing, is going to start thinking about how that can be done. So I'm excited. Like I said, this is, you know, I'm not surprised with Apple, because their new device they come out with is super cool, and is just a
Hmm.
great piece of hardware. I know this is the first iteration, so they're only going to get better as they start to build more versions of it. But I was just curious what your thoughts was on it. Um, what you were talking about in your bio, kind of the myths that you wanted to kind of shatter about this industry. What do you see as some of the myths that a lot of people may have about game development and animation in the gaming industry?
So I think the major thing I'd like to tackle on is my major mission, I would say, is that game development and animation does take a while to get into. It takes a while to get good at it, but I don't think it needs to take as long as it currently does. Because I think with the right guidance, with the right support, you can get to where you want to get to much faster. And for example, the traditional route is to get into a studio, work for a company, help them develop their games. But we're in a space now in this world where you can quite easily create your own stuff with the power of Unreal and
Yeah.
all the different technologies out there. There's no reason you can't create your own levels, your own games. And there's this one developer, I forget his name, but he's basically created his own game because he made an animation of a dinosaur holding like blades in its mouth,
Hmm.
and everybody thought it was super super cool. So he was inspired to make a game out of it, which you can actually go ahead and test and play. And I think things like that are super awesome, where you can start taking the artistry and bringing it to life. I
Yeah.
think that's where I can see things are going to be going, and I think that's one of the major things in this industry is like what, you don't need to go the traditional route. You can make your own stuff and bring it to life. Like I think another guy I'd like to give a shout out to is Harvey Newman. He basically created his own game, and he was an animator just like me. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, like I said, I think it's such a great time because you do got, like I said, all the tools out there to even make your own game. I've been working to get this brother on the show for a while, and I've been following him for a while. But he made a super dunk basketball game, just really cool. God, he's gonna kill me because I can't remember. I can't remember. I want to say Graham for some reason, but I know that's not it. But he came up with a basket, just a kid's basketball, and he's come up with different variations of it. But it's a game he's been working on to try and get out there and everything, and definitely looking forward to getting him on the show. But I say all that is to say is exactly what you said. You've got all these tools to make your own game and really get it out there. And if it's a great game, and it doesn't even have to be a really, elaborate, you know, game that we usually think of when you think of game. It could be a
Mm.
simple game, and usually the simple ones are the best ones. Um, when it comes to, which brings me to my next question, when it does come to creating a game, what do you think are the key elements that make a successful game?
I think the major things that make a game, any game successful, is honestly listen to the fans, because they tell you exactly what it is that they want from a game. They tell you what features they want, especially if let's say you're making a sequel of a game, for example. They tell you quite bluntly what they like, what they didn't like. Give them what they want, you will get their money. They'll pay for it. And it's the same thing when you're making a new game. Put out demos and stuff really early on, get feedback very early, and that way you can give them exactly what they want and they'll pay you for it.
Yeah,
Just give the people what they want. I think that's something that honestly that applies to every kind of
everything.
product or service in the
Yeah,
world. Give the people what they want.
yeah, yeah, and get user feedback and listen and kind of use it and listen to the user feedback. Some companies don't like doing that for some reason.
Hmm.
Uh, um, to this point, what's you've obviously been in the industry, 10 years, a long time, and worked on a lot of different things. What's been kind of the best piece of advice that somebody outside again, your teacher, what's been kind of the best piece of advice that somebody's given you that's really, made a difference in your life?
There's many bits of advice, but if I could put it down to one, um, there was a time where I was a bit lost in my career because I wanted to basically go from mid-level to senior, and I didn't know how to make that jump essentially. And what they said to me was be intentional with everything that I do, meaning that when I'm working in the studio, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis that's going to position me as being that senior already? Because nobody's going to give you something without you being that something to begin with. So let me give you an example. When I became a lead animator, there was no way that I was going to become a lead animator until I showed that I had lead animator qualities. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that was the best advice that I got in this industry is like be the thing that you want to be. So if you're someone that's trying to enter the industry, be that animation professional before you're a professional. If you're mid-tier, want to be a senior, be that senior, and then find out specifically what that means and do things on a daily basis, small things that are going to push you towards that objective. And I think that was the key and best advice that I ever got.
yeah, yeah. And as you all know, I got that because that was a piece of and really, like I said, it translates into anything, um, not just specifically in animation. Because I was thinking, as you were saying that, I was thinking about um, like some of I'm really big into self help, self development.
Hmm.
I mean, self development, and listen to, like I said, Robert Kiyosaki. I read a lot of his stuff, and just financial people. And their thing is, you got to see yourself as the thing that you want to be, before you be it. If you want to, be successful, you got to act like you're and show that and do the things that successful people do. Even if you're not at that level yet, you got to do those acts, and you'll start to transition into that being what it is that you see, that you want to be. So such powerful advice there, for yourself. Was there any kind of technical difficulty in like learning Maya and the software, because I always found that kind of challenging for me, which is why I guess I hadn't really picked up on Maya yet, because you can kind of get overwhelmed with a lot of stuff, and I guess
Hmm.
any 3D soft or any software is kind of like that. You see all the things that you can do, as opposed to just focusing on the things that you want to do, and usually it's just, most artists say it's really only a few tools that you'll use out of the software on a regular, consistent basis. Were there certain things that were really hard for you to kind of pick up as you were learning animation, and really honing your craft of animating, really getting good at animating?
Okay, in terms of getting good at animating, actually, I can answer all of that in one. The answer to that, the simple answer is no. And the only reason I can say no is because I was very intentional with my learning process. So when I was at my university, or in States, you guys will call it college,
Yeah,
I was specifically focusing on the tools and how to use them for animation and what was needed for that. And I think it was more difficult, let's say 10 years ago, because YouTube wasn't as big, there wasn't as much content out there. But today's day and age, you don't necessarily need to do that. You can go to YouTube and type in, how do you do this for animation? And you
yeah,
can find channels that are dedicated to tell you exactly what it is that you need to do. So it goes back to being intentional with just being intentional.
yeah,
And if you are, you can laser focus on what it is that you want to do, and you'll achieve the results, because softwares like Maya, 3ds Max, Motion Builder, it's very easy to get lost in them because there's so many things you can do. So I
yeah,
give you an example. Me as an animator, I probably only use about maybe 5% of the tools in the software, because you can go into motion graphics, you can go into modeling, all
yeah,
sorts. There's so much things you can do inside of Maya. It's not just an animation software. So really focus down on what you want to do. And one thing that I do, is a class that I give out for free, is to optimize your Maya specifically for animation. That way you can kind of filter out all of the stuff you don't need and focus on what you really do need.
yeah, yeah. And are you also, which I pretty much I would guess the answer, but are you a proponent of really observing life to get and watch movement, how people are moving? Because like I said, as I watch like some animators doing like really elaborate fight scenes or action scenes, are you grabbing reference of video? Are you shooting reference of, which I always like to see? I love when animators do those reference shots of themselves acting out a shot or something like that. But
Mhm.
is that something else that you really work at, being an observer of life and how people move and just action sequence and whatever it is that you're wanting to learn to really make your animation pop and be more authentic to to the scene?
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you're first starting out in animation, it's very important that you observe almost everything that you can. So, if you want to make somebody walk, look at how people generally walk, things like that, animals, quadrupeds, etc. Just look at how things generally move, and that's gonna give you an idea. Get reference, record your own reference, use it. But then one thing I want to add to that is, don't use the reference and copy it one for one, because if you do that, it never looks good.
Yeah,
You want to use it to extract the information that is needed so that you can then apply it to your animations. And then as you get more experienced and more skilled, what you find is that you almost don't even need to go back to the reference. You've trained your eye so much that you almost know what looks right and what looks good. But then you'd only ever go back to reference when you don't understand how emotion works. You use it to understand the mechanics of it rather than it to direct you. Make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah. No. Again, everybody just tuning in. We've been having a fun, amazing conversation with my man Jerome here. Um, are you starting to also see, like I said, you had mentioned just the type of people that you saw when you came into the industry? Are you starting to see uh, more people of color really taking an interest, and really getting into the industry, and finding whatever lane they want to go down, whether it's rigging or coding or whatever it might be? Are you starting to see a rise in people of color and more diverse backgrounds really kind of getting into the gaming industry?
Unfortunately, not particularly. Sure, I've seen maybe one or two cases, but generally, no. And I think it really comes down to education and the things that we're taught because as black men, we know that growing up, you was taught like, you either go into entertainment or you go into sports or, you become a doctor, a lawyer, things like that. Game development has never been something that's seen, not even just game development, animation,
Yeah,
TV, movies. It's never been pushed as an avenue that you can go down and have a genuine, fulfilling career and support a family on, for example.
yeah,
But I think shows like this, Color of Motion, and the work that you're doing, really helps put that message out there. Like, look at the conversation we're having now
yeah,
as two black creatives.
yeah,
So, with that in mind, honestly, man, keep doing what you're doing, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing to put the word out there. And as more of us do that, it will become more diverse. Because one thing I do know about this industry is very open, it's very accepting, it's super cool. The
yeah,
people that you meet are amazing and genuine.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Again, if you have comments or anything, make sure you throw them up into the chat there. Um, I'm fascinated. Like I said, I love games. I try I try not to have a whole lot of games on my phone or stuff because I can get lost in them and you can spend hours on them. Um, but I'm always fascinated with, like I said, just the whole pipeline of what goes into a game from conception, um, to finally being released. And
Mhm.
like you said, it does take a long time, and the process is very long. Have you found that a lot of studios um, kind of don't have a plan for the game, and they just think they want to, you know, they want to develop a game, but they haven't really laid out a plan about how they're going to make release the game, what makes this game different than other games, type of thing. And that was kind of the um, point of the post that I was talking about of the character animator when he was talking about interviews. Those were questions that he was asking them. Well, they would just say, well, we want it to be like this game. We wanted to
Mhm.
have this feature as opposed to, making something different. Is that something that you keep in mind when you're, doing freelance or doing work for somebody or working for the company? Because obviously there are a lot of people, a lot of studios that may start and then they don't get funding or funding drops off or that type of stuff, and then they fall to the wayside, or it takes them 3 or 4 years and they still haven't released the game, type of thing. um,
Mhm.
kind of talk about the whole process of where how a company really does kind of move through, getting a game from idea to finally being released.
Sure. So before I jump into that, I find there are two instances, and these are the things that determine whether a game is going to be successful or not. The first one is, like you rightly said, do they have an idea that one, people are actually going to buy into? Do they know exactly what it is that they want to do? Because if they don't, what you find is that the island direction changes midway through the project, and that's when you get delays and
Yeah,
delays and delays
that's
and delays. And
exactly what he
eventually,
was saying.
what yeah, then eventually what happens is that the project ends up getting scrapped because the people that are funding it say like, hey, we've been funding this for 4 years and we're not even at what alpha stage yet. Money's not infinite. But to answer the question in terms of that, how the whole process works, usually it starts by somebody having an idea, right? And then the idea needs to go through several basically checks. And those checks are going to be to see if that idea is something that's even viable. One, with the technology that we have in place right now. And two, is it going to be an idea that somebody or people, players, are going to buy into? And the only way you can determine that is by looking at things that have been made before. So, as you know, there's a lot of shooting games that have been made.
Yeah,
So, how do they know that, oh, our shooting game is going to be successful amongst all of the others? You got to look at the key components have made all the others successful, take what you can from it, and then add your own unique spin on it. And then it's only from that point that you start to bring in all of the people needed to then make it work. Your artists, your designers, your coders, etc., etc. And when one thing I would say, and this is just advice to studios in general, is get your creatives on board early on because they're also players themselves. They know what works, they know what they would like to play. So get them on board early on, and they're also good at weeding out potential problems that would appear later down the line. So, for example, animation. When it comes to animation in games, animation is one of the last things to happen in the pipeline because you've got to create your design, then you create your concepts, then the characters get made, then they get rigged, and then they're animated, right? So
Yeah.
animation is one of the last things. But what you find helps is that when you include the animation department early on, it saves a lot of problems. So, for example, do you have a character design that is just quite simply not going to work for rigging and animation?
Yeah.
Is the topology or the way that the character is built correct for rigging? See,
Yeah.
when you include your creatives early on, they spot problems that are going to they spot potential problems that will occur later down the line, and
Yeah.
that is going to allow you to have a smooth development, which then transitions to a smooth game.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that kind of methodology of getting everybody talking to everybody, and which it's kind of one of the things I kind of liked about Pixar when I first learned about Pixar was they put everybody together, developers, artists, creators, so that they would mingle and learn things. Well, this isn't going to work right for this type of thing, and you really kind of figure out because obviously you as the animator has to be able to use the rig that's going to be put into it type of thing, and all of that works together to make a better product in the end, I think, for sure. um, LinkedIn user, if you could say your name because I don't have LinkedIn open. Truth, very true for sure. But where I want to kind of ask you a little bit more about your academy,
Mhm.
um, where you see it going in the future. What are the things that you're kind of doing now? What are some of the courses that you're offering now? And again, all this information will be in the show notes. So if you are an aspiring game animator, game developer, definitely check it out. But where are you kind of what is your kind of your vision for where you're wanting to take animation, advanced animation academy, and what are some of the basic courses that people can kind of expect or look to find to really get them going?
Sure. So where I want to take the academy in the end is I want the academy to be basically to set the standard for animation generally all over the world. Because the key principle that I apply to everybody that I mentor, everyone that I interact with, and even my job as lead animator now, is that excellence is a standard. Because as games, movies, and television demand more and more from animation,
Yeah,
us as artists, we simply have to basically keep up and improve our skills. We have to constantly be about self improvement, and the only way we're going to do that is to constantly push ourselves to be better. And that's the thing that I is my core principle in the Advanced Animation Academy. And the way that I instill that is via mentorships, whether that's either 1, 3, or 6 months, whether that's through our courses, and our courses contain things such as body mechanics, because it's super important to have a good grasp of body mechanics so that you can master human motion essentially.
yeah,
Then there's creature animation for those of us that want to animate fantastic creatures that are going to basically be the wow factor of our games, movies, television, etc. Motion capture is a course that I run as well because it's super powerful and super important that you have a good understanding of motion capture, how to apply it and get the most out of it to enhance your animations as well. Then there's obviously the very basics of animation for people that are just wanting to get a grasp of the software as well. So I actually have a package where I package all of that together, and it's something that I like to call Aspire, which is called the Aspire to Higher Animation Method. The name is within itself. It's specifically for those animators that aspire for higher heights. And that's where I'll take you through my mentorship program, which includes CV development, so making sure that your CV is in tip top shape, your social media, your show reel, showing you how to develop that and craft in compelling and amazing shots. In fact, the best shot that you've made in your animation show reel, your best shot to date.
yeah,
Then combine that with all the courses that we offer as well. All these courses are 3 month courses as well, and they're packaged in as well. And you also get a community of animators of my past and previous students, sorry, my past and current students. And we all are there together working, helping you on your assignments so that you can grow and develop as an animator. So that when you put yourself out there, you're in the best position possible to not only land the opportunity that you're searching for, but then also to extract the most out of it. Because when your skill set is of a higher caliber, you're able to, honestly, you can even command a higher salary straight up.
yeah. Yeah.
So that's the things that we do at the Advanced Animation Academy. Put together a holistic package that's going to position you to be much better than where you currently are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my aim and my objective.
And we're getting ready to show some of the channels where you can connect with Jerome at. But there is one question I kind of want to ask as we kind of wrap this up, because you've talked a lot about excellence and really working, really kind of pushing yourself to be the best, that you can possibly be. Do you find that there's this within the game industry, and speaking within the game industry specifically, because I have talked to, and I have seen this in the visual effects space,
Hmm.
where a lot of creators are kind of getting burned out because they're getting pushed to make these really. It's obviously the graphics and things aren't like film quality, you know, type of effects that are in these heavy, but it's heavy animation and it's all character stuff. This
Hmm.
balance of working through burnout and getting burned out on just getting pushed because the scheduling, the pace may be a bit faster than what they're able to keep up with, or the demands from the studio is so much more, I guess,
Hmm.
stringent than they're, kind of used to. Like I said, there was a stretch there where a lot, I was hearing about a lot of VFX artists, complaining because they were getting thrown all these shots and it was just getting to be a lot and really a lot of pressure on them to keep up and create all these hundreds of shots. Do you kind of see that same thing in the gaming space or not so much so?
Not so much with games, and I'm going to be honest, that's one of the reasons why I chose to go into games rather than animation visual effects, because I know that that culture was a thing that was very prevalent within that side of the industry.
Yeah.
And this is why one of the things you mentioned earlier, which I think is super powerful, is that you mentioned that when you're interviewing for a company, you're also interviewing them. They're not just interviewing you, because you need to make sure that, with the things that they're producing, their work schedule, their ethics, it's a good fit for you too, because it's a relationship. You're going to be there long term.
Yes.
So definitely check out if that's their practices, if they're in an encourager of somebody that, like, overtime, and how do they manage that essentially? Because everywhere that I've applied to, everywhere that I worked, I asked that question. And it's very important to me how you treat your staff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And are they a staff that's really gonna, like you said, you know, kind of guide you along, really teach you, because a lot of these companies they'll throw you, they expect you to hit the ground running, depending on what
Hmm.
what the company is and that type of thing. It is one of those places that has maybe a smaller studio or a smaller game studio that is going to give you that kind of bandwidth to hang, to guide you along and be there to help you. Do they have the type of people that are working there that, hey, we know how it is when you first get into the industry, and when they're there helping you along the way, type of thing. You
Oh
really
yeah.
want to make
That's
sure.
generally, sorry to interrupt.
No,
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
that's generally what your senior animators are there for. They're there not just to be the animators that create amazing content. They're supposed to guide and mentor you as well, especially if you're a junior and you're just coming into the industry. Also, I want to add to that as well is that when you join a game studio, typically what happens is that there's going to be a period where you're going to be learning their tools and software, because no two game studios operate the exact same way. So there's always going to be a learning curve. So you should never be expected to hit the ground running. The only thing that you should be expected to hit the ground running with is your core animation skills. So if I was to hire a senior, I expect them to be a good animator, but I don't expect them to know all our pipelines and processes. I expect that to take them a few months to get up to speed.
Yeah,
If the studio is not willing to give you that time, then it's unreasonable, and you should really question if that's a place you want to be.
yeah, yeah. And you had mentioned before we show your links and channels. Um, you had mentioned about one of your students earlier on their test. To you, it seemed kind of unreasonable. What is a reasonable kind of test that a person interviewing for a job would know to pick out? Because obviously,
So
like I said, I think most kids or most people are just excited to be in the interview, so they'll do it and try and try and get it done and maybe not do
Yeah.
their best work.
Yeah, and I find that's generally what happens. And that's something that actually happened to me earlier in my career as well. But to answer the question, I think you should, I think it's completely reasonable to give somebody a test that's going to take them maybe a day and a half, 2 days at the very most. But I think when you start giving them a test that's going to take them a week, 2 weeks, in some cases three, I'm like, no, come on, that's a little bit unrealistic. And I think when you're giving animation tests, and this is for the studios out there, that you should really think about the test that I'm giving. Sure, a senior animator might be able to finish this in, let's say, 2 days, 3 days, but can a junior really do that to the quality that you're expecting?
Yeah,
That's something to consider as well. So I think it honestly takes an animator to give an animation test or an art test rather to know how long it's going to take.
yeah,
So I would say a couple of days is fine. When it gets to the stage where it's weeks, it's unreasonable. So I'll give you an example. There was a time where I was basically applying for a studio that was in Prague at the time. Won't mention the studio's name, but the test that they gave me, honestly, even as an experienced animator now, I think back on that test, that would have probably taken me about 5 days. So you can imagine as a junior, for me to get to even close to the level of quality that I can now, that's
yeah,
going to take me weeks,
yeah,
at least a month.
yeah.
It's not realistic.
Wow, wow, wow. But being able to, like I said, know you as a person and be able to again, a lot of people probably wouldn't speak up in the interview and kind of not fight back, but at least voice
Hmm.
your opinion about, well, this seems like a pretty long shot for, that type of thing because they're trying to get the job. So I
Hmm.
think, like you said, knowing, your mentality, knowing your skill set, and being confident within your skill set to at least speak up for yourself when something doesn't feel right or sound right when they're saying stuff,
Hmm. Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah,
So I think it's important that you do speak up for yourself in that regard because if you don't, what does it look like on the other side? The other side is that you're really stressed out, you're burned out, your quality of life is affected, and then ultimately your mental health.
yeah,
So it's very important that you ask these questions and that you speak out. I know that you desperately want the job, but speak out for your own sake. You need to look out for yourself because
yeah.
you're the only person who's always going to have your best interest in mind.
And trust me, you can get the job and lose your mind. That's not a good trade off for sure. And lose
Yep.
your sanity. That's definitely not a good trade off for sure. That you want to be, you definitely want to be cognizant of. Um, like I said, we're gonna. This is where you can check out, get connected with Jerome. Obviously, he does some amazing work. Where is that thing at? Here, there we are. Get connected with them. Go to Advanced Academy, check it out. AdvancedAnimationAcademy.com. If, like I said, if you're a game developer or just love the gaming industry, want to get into it, please check it out. Like you said, you've seen his work. He does some amazing animation. He's been in the industry for quite a while and definitely got some great courses on there to get you kind of up to speed and really get your skill level up. You can also connect with him on LinkedIn. That's where we met for sure. Check out his Twitter account. Also, check out YouTube where you can see some more great animations as well. But you definitely want to get connected with him. And again, all this information will be in the show notes. So definitely check it out there. I got this going here. Let me turn this off. There we go. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Definitely check it out for sure. Like I said, this has been. I always tell my guests, the time goes by quick. We're already an hour and a half into this, so it goes by super, super
Wow.
quick. Like I said, these shows, you think an hour is a long time. It's not. Usually, like I said, it goes by into the hour and a half type of episode. Like I said, my 150th was a 2.5 hour marathon. So that was definitely a good one. Jerome, like I said, this has been, like I said, such an amazing conversation. I cannot thank you enough for coming on, sharing your skills, your knowledge, and just your energy. and what you bring to the gaming space. And definitely cannot wait to have you back on the show. I always like to say, hey, I'm so thankful for the Color of Motion family and all the friends and that are a part of it, and can't thank you enough for being part of the Color of Motion family as well.
Thank you for having me, man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, man. Honestly, when you called me up, it's just a pleasure to be here, and me having the opportunity to speak on your show, inspire, help others. Hey, what more can I say?
Oh man, I can't. Like I said, the honor is all mine, Mr. Harvey Newman. Appreciate you. Nice one, Jerome, for sure.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Big up to Harvey Newman. Big up to Harvey Newman, man.
so for
Good friend of
sure.
mine, amazing animator.
Oh, okay, Harvey, we may have to talk. Get you on the show.
Yeah,
So
you should definitely speak with him. Amazing animator.
definitely for sure. Again, like I said, I cannot thank my guests and friends, and like I always tell them, I don't like calling them guests. I like calling them friends that come on the show. But can't thank my friends enough, and can't thank Jerome enough for coming on and making the Color of Motion a great space to really inspire. Other young creators of color and diverse backgrounds, that this is an industry that you can make a good living out of. You just got to put in the effort and the energy into it. And you can find and follow your dream, whatever that dream may be. So, again, I cannot wait to have you back on, Jerome, and share all the great things that Animation Academy is doing. And really share, what's going on with you as well, and see more of your work that comes out. So thank you, Jerome, for being on the show for sure.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, look
All
forward to
right.
being on the show again.
Everybody, please help me thank again Jerome for coming on. Jerome, if you could hang out in the green room for a minute while I close out the show, I would appreciate it. Let's thank Jerome for being on the show. Thank you, Jerome. Hang out for just 1 second, would you please? Guys, gals, hey, you know the drill. I always love doing these episodes. I always love being here each and every Saturday, for sure. I cannot thank you enough for coming on. I hope you got some value, because Jerome really did drop a lot of great nuggets on there. So if you kind of came in the middle or on certain sections, please make sure when the episode goes up on the channel, you go back through it, because there's a lot of things in there Jerome said that really, really are great pieces of nuggets there. And you definitely we pick up on a lot of things. So please check out the episode or again on YouTube. Like I said, this second quarter, man, we've been having some amazing guests. And the show's been rolling along. Like I said, I didn't really do a big celebration on my 150th episode, although it was a great episode, it had some great guests. I'm thinking I probably will do a big kind of celebration on my 200th episode. So probably towards the end of the year, when I hit 200 episodes, I'll do a big thing, and who knows who the guest will be that time. But next week, I'm super excited about next week's show for sure. Bill, like I said, this brother here, he's coming back on the show. My boy, Mr. James Mosley II, animation line producer. He's worked at some great studios, but he was on the show first season, and Detroit brother. So I'm looking forward to having him back on the show, kind of catching us up. It's been a minute, and he's had a lot of stuff that's been happening to him. So I'm looking forward to having my boy James come back on, talk about what's been going on with him, and share all the great information with the industry. So make sure that you definitely join us next week. As it always is, it's going to be a great show, and I don't want you to miss out. So thank you for giving me, as always, a little bit of your time on this Saturday afternoon. I will see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Cheers, everybody.